Welcome, parish orphans and retrogrades, to another episode. This one involves the Pope in two capacities. In the first capacity, there's breaking news that he is acknowledging further and further German Episcopal shift towards schism. I'll give you my take on that and I'll read you the news story. The second one, which I'm actually going to begin with, is this story in National Catholic Register entitled Pope Francis Calls for Civil Union Law for Same-Sex Couples in Shift from Vatican Stance. I'll get to that in just one moment. I would like to take the moment to point out to parish orphans and retrogrades out there who are sympathetic to what we do on Rules for Retrogrades, my Patreon account, my brother's Patreon account. As we wind toward the election, censorship is increasing, and your news outlets and your commentary outfits are being squeezed. This is happening to me as well in all kinds of insinuated ways. We don't know what's going to ever get taken down. The video with Dr. J. Richards that appeared on Monday, I was worried it was going to get taken down almost as soon as it came up. The point is, we need resources, and if you're willing to help, we really, really appreciate it. This time, right before the election, is crazy with the censorship big tech arm of the state, essentially, even though it's technically private sector. It's not. Anyway, we'd appreciate your support on Patreon. If you're already a patron, we love you. Thank you so much. And we're increasing, at least on my end, what we offer to patrons in terms of outreach and live streams and all that. Okay, so Pope Francis calls for civil union for same-sex couples in shift from Vatican stance. Don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. This is who Francis is. We know it. He's teaching in a personal capacity. But on the other hand, out come the Pope-splainers, I would expect, saying whatever you could possibly say at this point to vindicate the man. The office is still vindicable, not the man. This is outrageous. And you'll see how it plays into this other crazy story about the growing schism in Germany. These things always happen in couplets, because he seems to use one where he's being an ostensible defender of tradition. I don't buy it, as against the German Bishops' Conference, as a way to make cover for this other story that he's out there defending same-sex unions. In a documentary, Ed Penton writes, that premiered Wednesday in Rome, that's today, Pope Francis called for the passage of civil union laws for same-sex couples, departing from the position of the Vatican's doctrinal office and the Pope's predecessors on the issue. The remarks came amid a portion of the documentary that reflected on pastoral care for those who identify as LGBT. Here's what he said. Direct quote, "Homosexuals have a right to be a part of the family. They're children of God and have a right to a family. Nobody should be thrown out or made miserable because of it," Pope Francis said in the film of his approach to pastoral care. After those remarks, and in comments likely to spark controversy among Catholics, Pope Francis weighed in directly on the issue of civil unions for same-sex couples. Before I read what he said there, that context, not being thrown out of the family, not being made miserable, being children of God, and thrown out, and having a right not to be thrown out, those 3 points contextualize the LGBT same-sex marriage issue in the exact same way as liberals always have. Let that sink in. He is giving the same context for mortal sin, the normalization of it, that the liberal LGBT James Martin types do. So just bear that in mind as I read you. Now he says, what we have to create is a civil union law. The way that they are legally covered, he said, that way they're legally covered. I stood up for that. So the documentary is called Francesco. He stands up for, in the name of avoiding misery, being thrown out, and being in the family of God, that trifurcated justification for gay civil unions. He's standing up for it in his own words. This, how many times have I said this? This is the end of all Pope-splaining. This guy is out to lunch. It can't be made up for. People don't lose hope. But this Pope will be looked back on through history. We already knew he was a bad Pope, not an open question. When I was building a list the other day. I've done it several times in the last 2 years in front of YouTube camera rolling. But this Pope stands up for mortal sin in the name of being in the family of God. So he's saying, because you're in the family of God, you get to mortal sin because you enjoy it. And then because the habituation of avoiding that mortal sin, if you're homosexual, makes you, quote, miserable. This is the exact opposite of what my Aristotle students are learning in my classes, right? Eudaimonia is the supreme good, the good behind all the goods. It's a moral happiness that involves a few other factors, but it's mainly a moral happiness. It is not pleasure. Gays who want to marry each other, live in civil union, are seeking pleasure. Aristotle and Thomas says this is a life fit for a beast of burden, a camel, a donkey. This is and Aristotle says only an idiot would substitute pleasure for eudaimonia. This is precisely what Pope Francis is doing with that trifurcated justification. Pleasure, meaning avoiding misery, being in the family of God, and not being thrown out further on the margins of society. Okay, this is an outrage. It's an outrage, even if it's not the official teaching capacity of the church. It's outrageous. Outrageous. So what are we to do? Keep strong, keep in the faith. We don't know what's going to happen ever in the future. We don't even know what's going to happen in the election. And that's supposed to be somewhat predictable. Just keep carrying on. But don't Pope-splain. Just be like, this is absolute madness. Absolute madness from the pontificate. But everyone already knows that by now, which is why I've barely even covered Pope Francis over the last 4 months. This is par for the course. Now, with regard to the other story, particularly the story that Pope Francis opposes the German Bishops' Conference, who's really largely the conference that put him in power through their key prelates in the St. Gallen Mafia. There's another National Catholic Register article. This came up yesterday. Cardinals deplore German bishops slide as schism fears arise. And the first line is, despite Pope Francis's warnings, the leaders of the church in Germany have refused to back down on their promotion of intercommunion or to change the course of their much criticized synodal path. Now, just so you understand the link between these stories, the German Bishops' Conference is the one that's pushing homosexual unions and has been for decades. So Pope Francis is the hand strikes and gives as well. And guess what? He's giving on the homosexual union issue. And it's not really even striking in the first place. Why? This is not a legitimate schism. Pope Francis will never declare them schismatics, even though they're saying we don't have to follow Rome, as Marx was saying for years. The new guy's saying we're not going to follow Rome, and they're even calling out their shots. They're essentially saying, look, we're not going to be ousted for this. Reports emerged recently of Pope Francis's dramatic concern about the state of the Catholic Church in Germany, and news that he received German Apostolic Nuncio for private talks on Monday. And all this is happening as the bishops pressed ahead on their goal of shared communion with Protestants, despite strong objections from the Vatican. I don't know what to make of that, but I don't buy it. I think this, if anything, he knows how to couple stories together. He knew that this documentary on the homosexual union was coming out today, Wednesday, in Rome. He's creating a news cycle. Literally, the National Catholic Register reported both of them. I don't buy it. Also, I straight up don't buy that there's ever a threat of schism. These guys, if you really cared about what the Germans are doing, they are Luther. They are Protestant schismatics. Toss him out. He would have done it when he first came in. He's not going to, because Casper and Marx and several of the other powerful German prelates are the ones that were canvassing for him to get into the chair Peter in the first place. I don't buy it, and neither should you. I don't know what to do with this precisely, but I don't buy it, neither should you. So neither of us should buy this. No one out there, no faithful Catholic should buy the lie. He is in the lobby of the German Bishops' Conference. I'm going to end on this note. Pope Francis is in the lobby of the German Bishops' Conference. These are his people. There never will be a schism as long as he's involved, because he will never declare them in schism. They're too powerful financially. They're too powerful ideologically. And he knows ideologically, not ideologically, but ideologically, they're his first cause. They're the main guys, along with the Belgians and some of the French, that put him in power. They are the ones that are somehow darkling forces behind the scenes, are keeping them powerful, and they're keeping him powerful, even though everyone knows the jig is up. The mask is off. Pope Francis is out there advocating for gay civil unions. It's been up since before Amoris Laetitia, when he was saying Zika virus allowed contraception. It's up. The time is up. You don't have to despair, which you shouldn't. Don't lose hope. Just tell people, yeah, Pope Francis, we don't know. We straight up don't know. All we know is this is madness, and no one's taking this seriously. He has no moral imprimatur outside of that which he speaks directly from the chair, and he's always speaking off the cuff. That doesn't excuse him, the way Catholic Answers is always saying. It just excuses the office. But it doesn't excuse the man. This is madness. Keep the faith. Hold strong. We'll wait and see how this story develops. Again, please see to our Patreon pages. Pray for America. Pray for the Vatican. Deus Vult. God wants both of these sovereign states, the Vatican and, to a lesser extent, the United States, to carry on. But both of them are badly plagued right now, and we need some serious help. God bless you all. Deus Vult.